Welcome to the final episode of Series 64, everybody. In today's episode, we get to discuss how things went, as well as get into some really great fanfic for Flabbergasted, a game by our guests, Fleur and Chelsea Sciortino, from the Wanderer's Tome. But before we get to the episode, of course, here is what to expect in our call to action.
After the episode, you can join us for our usual thoughts on this recording, as well as our normal announcements about Patreon, podcast endings, other quick announcements, and a brand new review.
Woo!
And also thanking our patrons.
Until then, enjoy the show, everybody.
Welcome back to our discussion episode. Last time we finished our session 0 for Flabbergasted. This episode, we will be discussing the character creation process. We're excited to welcome back Fleur and Chelsea Sciortino. Do you want to reintroduce yourselves for our audience and tell us about the characters you made in our last episode?
Yeah, I'm Fleur. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm one of the co-owners of the Wanderer's Tome, which I run with my sister.
And I'm the other sister, Chelsea, and we made the game Flabbergasted, which is a 1920s comedic tabletop role-playing game. And in the last episode, we made two characters. We made a character each, well, all of us. I made an aristocrat. Let's see. Her name is Winifred Basilweather. She comes from a well-known family, and she's usually found in her library reading romance novels, and she's after a perfect partner who's not after her wealth and her estate, and who will love her ferret, Mopsy. And unfortunately, she's had a long string of relationships that she ended herself, so she might have some suitors who want to see her fail at meeting her match.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a ghastly gossip. That's about it. That's Winifred Basilweather.
And my character that I made is Tilly Cooper. She is the bohemian archetype, so she's an artist. And her backstory is that she was a child prodigy in all manner of musical pursuits. She performed across many stages in different cities as a young kid. But as she grew older, the audiences grew slimmer. Now in her 30s, Tilly is just one of many musical performers splitting from one orchestra to the next and occasionally performing at lounges and restaurants. In her last-ditch attempt to recapture her former glory, she's rejected her material comforts and is now embracing a more bohemian lifestyle in order to get in touch with her inner soul and compose a masterpiece. And her goal right now is she's to find an orchestra and a venue willing to perform her next masterpiece. After she finishes writing it, of course. She has a little bit of a daredevil streak in her now. And her relationship status is engaged. For now.
Ryan, do you want to tell everybody about your character?
Yes, I made Margot Carlisle the staff. Margot is somebody who lost her parents when she was about 12 years old. They had gone on a mysterious business trip and gave her a special bookmark and said very, very ominously, if anything happens to us, find the book that this matches and it'll give you the answers that you need. And then they left. And never came back. So since then, she's been kind of searching for this book that will match this bookmark and looking for those answers. She is 23 years old, works as a personal book organizer for our aristocrat, and she is also single and a pretty much a snoop, but doesn't kind of lead on that she's a snoop. She does like to get the gossip so she can pass that along and kind of work her way into different areas of the aristocracy and wealthy individuals within the town, so she can try to get access to more and more libraries to find that book eventually. Amelia, how about your character?
My character is Edith Weatherwax. Edith is a shoe heiress. Her family had a shoe company, but she really is only interested in the design and fashion part of this, not really the actual like quality of the shoes necessarily. She's 46 years old. Also, she may have done some tax evasion. And because she just really didn't care about like the business part. She just wanted pretty shoes. And she is currently getting blackmailed for it by someone that always just makes really weird blackmail requests. Like they're not asking for money. They just ask for like really specific particular things. But obviously if that got out, it would ruin her. She's incredibly fashionable and pretty ostentatious. There's like that line from Coco Chanel about like taking off one accessory before you leave the house. And Edith's motto is to just go ahead and add 2 more before she leaves to go anywhere. And she is married. But no one has ever seen her husband or like knows anything about him. But she tells everybody she's married. She wears a wedding ring, but her husband is a complete mystery. And she's kind of a show off. She likes everybody to know how many gorgeous accessories she has.
And we made a social club.
We did.
So the social club is what bands all of our characters together, and it's like what they do throughout their week. And I really love the social club we came up with. Who has the sheet so that
I do. It is called the Matchbook Club.
Amazing.
Which we do matchmaking. And our slogan is Hearts on Fire. So we're a matchmaking club. We make matches for other people, but also like maybe for the members if we want to. It's kind of why Winifred founded this club, because obviously she's looking for love. But we host mixers and most importantly, seasonal balls, because that's really what it's
Very
about.
important.
We are rivals with the Matchmakers Club, which is a club that also kind of does matchmaking, but also makes matches.
And candles, yep.
Candles, yeah. Our club is currently hosted in the library gardens. We like to host our little tea parties and things out there. The current big public challenge we have with our rivals is a scavenger hunt for matchbooks around town. And also trying to make a royal match, not, necessarily like heir to the throne, like 3rd or 4th in line or something like that. But whoever loses the royal wedding challenge has to forfeit their matchmaking club. So like the stakes are high if we don't win this royal match situation.
We're also both 2 clubs that have a lot of pyro enthusiasts,
right?
Coming to our clubs thinking that this is a where they can like share in their fireworks.
We have terrible branding.
Clubs.
I know, right?
Yeah. We also do have like a head matchmaker guy named Eustace, also called Biff. He's incredibly muscular and tattooed, but also just a real sweetheart who just wants to help people fall in love.
Yep.
And I love him.
Has Biff maybe found a love connection through this club, and that's why he's made it his life mission too?
Oh, I hope so. I hope he's like
Aw,
really
Biff.
happily married. He's got like a really sweet wife. Yeah.
Got 2 kids, third one on the way.
Oh.
And his free time, he likes to make other love connections the same way it worked for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh, I love Biff.
I love him so much. I'm so attached to him already.
Oh,
I want
love
to play
these
Biff
people.
now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
All right. So let's go ahead and jump into our full discussion portion that Ryan calls D20 for your thoughts.
D20 for your thoughts?
So in this segment, we talk to our guests about their thoughts on the character creation process in this game, how it relates to other games. Before we start, we like to ask like the really generic gaming podcast question, which is, how did you get into role-playing games?
So we got into role-playing games through our love of video games first. Particularly, we were both, like me and my sister and a lot of our friends are really obsessed with the Dragon Age franchise.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And well, after we finished like playing all of the games, reading all of the books, trying to absorb every content we can of Dragon Age, realized that there's a tabletop role-playing game of Dragon Age.
Mhm.
And we're like, you know what? Let's try this out. We went into it from the Dragon Age side, not from the roleplay side. Like we had no idea what was even entails role playing. I love Chelsea's. Chelsea
No.
got it for me for my
Oh,
birthday.
no.
She got me the box set, and she tried to run it like for my birthday, and it was. Oh, I want her to say it.
Oh, no. Well, I want to preface this by saying we had no idea what tabletop role-playing was. We didn't know anyone who did this. And this is about 11 years ago. So I tried to run the game, but I did zero prep. I didn't read anything. I just went in the first session. I opened the book and I started reading out to everybody. And they were so confused. And I would read out everything, including the parts that I shouldn't read out.
Oh,
And
no.
we're like, give your players the option, but do not reveal that there is a secret in this room.
Like, oops.
Oh,
It
no.
was horrendous. But every session got a little bit better. I learned what I'm supposed to do. And then we just became obsessed. Like for many years, we played every single Saturday for like 10, 12 hours straight.
Wow.
And
Those
then
were
we
the days, because now we're boring adults and don't have time for 12-hour games.
Yeah. Now we're all hitting our 30s, and now we can maybe manage like a 4-hour session
Mhm.
once a
Yeah.
month.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And one-shots are our favorite.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And after that, you're like, oh, it's getting late. Like, I'm so tired. It's like 8:30. I got to go to bed. Like,
Yeah.
I love that it was such a bumpy start, though, and that you weren't like, this is not for me. You were like, let's try it again. And then now you do this professionally. That's such an amazing, like,
Yeah.
like you,
'Cause, yeah, a lot more people get into role-playing games nowadays because they like either listen to a live stream or a podcast, and they have a
Mhm.
good knowledge of what role-playing
Yeah.
is. For us, it just went in because we just liked this particular IP.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's
But
such
then
a
we
good-
did along the way just fell in love with role-playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we went
That's
into,
awesome.
we played Dungeons and Dragons for many years. But then like the past few years has mostly been playing, indie games and
Mhm.
other kinds of themes.
Mhm.
Yeah. I love that, though. That's such a good origin story. Like, it's so much,
Yeah.
like, we get a lot of, like, well, I knew people in high school and they started playing. And look, that's
Uh-huh.
how mine started. Is like, I had friends that did it and they invited me. I love that story, though. That's so good. That's so good. What a great origin story.
We were just big Dragon Age nerds, and that's about it.
Yep.
Yeah. So good.
That's sometimes where it starts.
I still have the box set that I got for my birthday. It's up on my shelf as a memento. It's like such an important part of our
Mhm.
both of like a story that I shared with my friends, but also now like our whole
How we got into
profession
this.
and yeah.
Yeah. That's very cool. Well, in your opinions, what makes for a great character creation system? Like, what components do you love to see in character creation for the games that you like to play?
For me, definitely I wanted to be more narrative focused and have lots of different sections of things that I can describe for my character and not just leave it open to me. I would like to be slightly spoon-fed with, maybe like 15 different sections. Like, tell me your age, tell me your flaw, tell me what, in our case. Because it helps me structure a character's backstory. I don't want just, background and I have to figure out everything myself. Aside from that, I would say in general, when I play a game, I do expect that the character sheet is going to be kind of instantly recognizable, right? There is sort of a format that most character sheets follow, and usually without even reading the rule book, I can start filling in a lot of different sections. That's what I find, and I think it would be jarring if a character sheet is completely different to that format. What do you think, Fleur?
I agree with all of the same points. I like a character creation system that really helps you along the way build your character from from both their physical characteristics and their personality. I also really like a character sheet that has everything that you need to create your character on the sheet itself. This is it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a good character sheet if you have to look through a book, but as a personal preference, after like we were just saying, we played Dragon Age and D&D for quite a while. Every time we have to level up a character, we have to pass around the book one by one, and we just take easily like 2 hours just trying to find everything to fill into our character sheet. Whereas I love a character sheet where I know it tells me on the sheet itself how to level up. All of the components are there. That's something I think is a very elegant design.
That's actually like our next question that we like to ask is what does the character sheet tell you about playing the game? Because a lot of times that character sheet is the first interaction people have with the game. If you're not the game master, usually having that sheet in front of you is where it starts for people. So are there things that were super important to have front and center, things that, because I know sometimes the way you size things based on importance, are there things that you decided to leave off of the character sheets?
I think that just when you see the types of abilities that you have that in Flabbergasted, I think it immediately tells you that this is a game that's very heavy on its improv and its narrative. And I do think that we do prioritize, for example, visuals as well. We have quite a big box for the character portraits. Even for example, for the social club, we have room for the emblem. We love personalization touches, things with the club's slogan, the emblem. I feel like even in a game that doesn't give you the space where to come up, for example, with a name for your team, for example, your band of heroes, you always end up doing that anyways, most likely, when you're playing. And we wanted to encourage that in our sheets. To keep track of these things like nicknames, your mementos, your wins throughout your game.
I liked that there were separate boxes for a lot of those things too, that having a separate box for your description and your memento and your flaw, that all of those were different things rather than just being background or notes or something like that, that it broke down these are the important pieces. I think the other thing for me was having all of those social cues listed out so that you have the bullet, but what it does. And I mentioned as we were creating those characters, how much those inform who you are as a person and how you're going to play this character. And having all of that right in front of you when you're at the table is really nice.
And we don't actually have, for example, the explanation of how to level up on the sheets, which actually now looking at it, I'm like, man, I think I could have done that. but with that being said, as long as it's very easy to how to level up in your character, right? You either add a new trait or add a new scene cue. You don't have to look through the book to see what things mean or find the abilities. It's all on your sheet.
I mean, it's pretty easy to remember.
Self-explanatory. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, well, it seems like leveling up is just fill in a new box. There's lots of squares. Pick one.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the character sheet layout is going to tell you a lot about what kind of game it's going to be. So I think in our case, our character sheets are pretty they're definitely not cluttered. There isn't too much. There's a lot of space for you to fill in and create your character as well. And the fact that pretty much it fits on the back to front page immediately tells you that this isn't a very heavy on mechanics, very crunchy game. It's probably going to be easier on mechanics, maybe better for new players to the hobby. And you touched upon this earlier, but obviously the size of the different sections on the character sheet is going to tell you how much detail you should go into that section.
You'll also note on the character sheets, there's no numbers anywhere.
No, I noticed
there's
that.
not a game that has any math crunching in it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I really like how, I don't want to say how empty they are, but like how open it is, that it's not a bunch of tiny text and like, you know, little things to fill in all of your skills and everything. It tells me that a lot of this is like very personalizable and like gives me the option as a player to decide what I want all of those things to be, that it is really narrative heavy, because I'm the one making all of that stuff up.
And it being having these boxes for us to put your narrative, your story in the sheets. That's really part of our philosophy of how we designed Flabbergasted as well, which is that it's the characters and the social club that inform the whole story of Flabbergasted and what's going to happen in your campaign.
Yeah, I really do love the aesthetic of the kind of like the marquee look of all the borders on every section. Like you're looking at an old like Broadway or like old movie theater like sort of representation of like, this is the show, this is the staff, this is the cast of the show, that sort of stuff. And I like that it kind of leans into that like 1920s Hollywood sort of feel, it seems like. Which really, just looking at the sheets themselves tells a lot about the game.
Yeah, aesthetically,
but also,
they match really, really well.
Yeah, exactly. It tells you, okay, the old-timey Hollywood, like give or take 1920s, 1930s or so. But also like you've got this whole like, I don't know, you've just got that nice aesthetic in there that gives you that like, this is going to be kind of like movie or sitcom TV show type feel to it, which is really cool.
Yeah, like we pulled references from both like, you know, 1920s Art Deco for a lot of the design elements, and then for our like wording choice, right? We have the staff, the aristocrat, the bohemian. That draws on more from the like you said, like us pulling references from
a movie title or something,
and TV shows. Though we really reference TV shows a lot in our book.
Yeah, I think a lot of the wording used, particularly the one that stood out for me, was the wording for the flaws too, like ghastly gossip, penny pincher, yellow bellied, persnickety, all of those kinds of words for things too.
Flabbergasted is a game where like the language is important as well to the game. In fact, apart from the title being Flabbergasted, you know, using this old-fashioned language, we have a section in the back of the book with like 1920s slang.
Yes, I loved that.
and then more fanciful words. This is stuff I really love doing a lot, which is that everything is a reference. If you look at the city of Peccadillo that we've designed, which is where Flabbergasted mostly takes place, every single district and town name is calling back to this like fanciful old language. For example, Peccadillo itself, I don't know if you know what a peccadillo is. It's a little mistake. Oh, that's what it means. Like, this person's made a little bit of a peccadillo. And I just love that this town is called like
mistake,
a big mistake. which you know, for me, it's like a little language pun. It also captures the fact that this is a game all about silly scenarios and social mishaps.
How much fun did you have, like naming those kinds of things and like picking that link? Because I love language and linguistics and stuff. You know, it's like not my area of expertise or anything, but I really love those kinds of things, and especially how thematic it can make things feel. So you have a lot of fun doing all of that kind of stuff.
I mean, I just really loved learning the history of this language, and some of the wording, and sneaking in references and Easter eggs is just something that we really love to introduce into our game and into our layouts and designs. And there's also a little bit of you feel a little bit clever. I'm not gonna lie.
No, I was gonna say, even if nobody else catches it, I know it's there. I know what I did.
It definitely shows that we were really passionate about this as well. Every single thing that we've named usually has a reference, or at least even if it's not a reference to, it could be an internal reference, to our friends or something.
Right.
Yeah, lots of Easter eggs for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you can tell that you're really passionate about the subject matter and sort of the the vibe, that there's a very distinct feeling that you wanted to go for, and you went for it. It was not something that you were I hope that people play it this way. It was it's very clear that you were this is what I want this game to do.
Yeah, I mean, the entire book is like that. We definitely had a specific voice in how we were going to write, which is very, very funny. Has lots of, like Fleur said, references and puns. And we kind of envisioned this person writing annotations throughout the book. So you'll see a lot of handwritten notes of someone sometimes pointing out jokes to people. Like we mentioned Flabbergasted in the book in a sentence, and there'll be a note saying, "Oh, I see what you did there," kind of thing.
Also a great game.
And we had so much fun.
It feels joyful.
I think it can be seen.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good way of saying it. There's a joy in every little. We've put our joy into every single aspect of this book, from both the writing and its design and its little names that we use. We found a way to have fun in creating this at every step. It really helps that we just love the setting, the era, the aesthetics of it. I really like old-fashioned English and words that are just no longer in use, and just.
Yeah,
that was important. If you're not extremely passionate about the theme, you will lose interest pretty early on.
Yeah,
and I think you could tell as well if someone is just doing it. There are some topics or themes that I will have only a surface level interest in. I would not be able to go in the same amount of detail if I'm not super passionate about the subject matter.
Yeah, you can always tell a difference, and people are really passionate about the thing that they've made versus oh, I got to get something done,
Yeah.
Absolutely. So how do we think character creation in Flabbergasted stacks up to other character creation systems we've used in the past? We know it's a lot simpler than most.
You said we, which always makes it sound like we are going to answer that question, but
oh, is that for us?
Yes, right.
Okay.
Yeah, so were there other games that you kind of wanted to pull a reference from? Are there things that you specifically didn't want to do? Or how is your other gaming informed what you did here?
Okay. I think we can answer didn't want to do when I mentioned having to flip through the book for D&D to level up.
Yes.
That was a big philosophy. I wanted to avoid that at all costs.
I think I was yeah, sorry, continue.
No, you can say it, Jeff.
Okay. I think based on games, especially that we've been playing for the last few years, I definitely wanted it to be pretty quick, and I wanted to have kind of a 10 to 15 steps to finish your character. Because Flabbergasted works, obviously, is great for campaigns, but it works really well for one-shots. So if you're doing a one-shot, I really don't think a character creation process should be complicated. I think it should last. I mean, you can make a character in 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, when you're sitting down to play a game at a convention or something like that, and you're doing a one-shot, you don't want 2 hours of character creation when you only have a 4-hour slot.
Yeah.
And all the terminologies on the sheet are easily understandable. There's no high fantasy jargon that
there's no magic spells that you have to look up and be every time I have to remember exactly what that one does. How do I? Yeah.
We were definitely inspired a lot by Tales from the Loop.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Yeah. That was a really big influence for us. Even in, for example, the way that they walk you through the character creation process. They have everything listed down step by step and numbered. That was very big for us as well.
Mhm.
Okay.
I found that to be a really simple character creation process. So
Mhm.
we were inspired by that.
Yeah, I really like
Yeah.
the idea of just having it, kind of written out and then, like going into detail then in the book of like what each of those things means, but having it kind of ahead of time of like, okay, here's what you need to do rather than being like, okay, let's make a character and then at some point you need to pick this thing, but you can do whatever over here, and that it's very clear, like this is how
Yeah,
you do
yeah.
it.
Right. It was very nice going through the step by step, because when I heard everything like in order, I was like, okay, now just hearing it, my brain's like, okay, now where do I start again? But like going through the steps on the filling in the sheets was extremely helpful. Just having that up in the background and be like, okay, now this is what I'm doing. This is pretty easy. I literally only need to read the first paragraph or so, and then I get a gist of exactly what I need to do in here. And you've got plenty of fantastic examples. So
I have to say another thing too about the character sheet, going back to that previous question, a thing that I point out a lot, it was very clear to me what each box was for. Because there's nothing I hate more than like doing character creation and being like, where does this go on my sheet?
Yeah.
Or looking at my sheet and being like, I don't know what this box is for. Where it's like, it's very clear on here that each step corresponds to a space on my sheet and I know where I'm supposed to put what. That's super important to me as a person. Like, I know what I'm supposed to do.
There's like no abbreviations where it's like the letters, oh, here's the letters like QZ. What does that stand for?
Right.
Yeah. We have it easily, like very noticeably labeled.
So I think when it comes to our character sheet, being stacked up to other games, and based on our experience, I would say once we strayed away from high fantasy games, we found a lot of character sheets that maybe are simpler and more similar to Flabbergasted. I think the more niche indie games tend to have more narrative and simpler character sheets, whereas fantasy is usually like fantasy and sci-fi tend to have a lot on a sheet, and it's more complex. I'm not dissing it. It's just a different kind of game.
Right.
Yeah, I still love my high fantasy and sci-fi role-playing games.
Right.
Played D&D for many, many years.
Yeah, I think it's like the more combat there is in a game, the more numbers there are on a sheet.
Yeah.
Right. My first impression when I went into the sheets was kind of PBTA adjacent sort of feel to the simplicity. Everything's on one sheet. Effectively, and you just need to read kind of what's on there in order to get through most of everything.
Ryan always comes back to, how is this like PBTA? I swear, like every time we do character creation, you're like, oh, it's like PBTA. And I'm looking at this going, no, those games have checkboxes, but then like tons of text.
Yes.
So like, I'm like, this is not like PBTA at all.
It's not an unfair comparison, because I was going to say that we are actually quite inspired by PBTA as well, namely in coming up with the playbooks. In our case, we call them archetypes. And also, I did always appreciate in PBTA where the moves and your next things that you unlock were always on one sheet. That was a philosophy I liked and I wanted to take into it. What I didn't really love in PBTA are the actual moves themselves. I don't really like the way the combat moves work, or
and I think we took that idea, and our moves, which are called syncues, are more just, they're all narrative. There aren't any mechanical moves. You just add a +1 to something and that's it.
Yeah.
But
they're all narrative.
Yeah.
They also don't influence how your character should feel, right? I've seen in PBTA where the moves are like, oh, you become in this state, right? You become in a weakened state and I don't really like that when the game is dictating how my character should feel.
Yeah.
This one just allows me to just come up with ideas for a scene, do something cool. That's really it.
Yeah, I think the moves in PBTA games tend to have a lot more specificity than it's like, in this particular situation, if this thing is happening, you can do this. Whereas this one's like, trying to think, you may not be an aristocrat, but being born into a wealthy family meant you moved in the same circles. Aristocrats and other affluent people will be amenable to helping you out. And it's like, I can use whenever, like anytime there's an aristocrat around, and I can ask them to help me out with pretty much anything. And like, they're just a lot more, they're a lot more useful in a wider variety of scenarios.
And it's open to interpretation as well. Some of them you can fit into other scenarios. Like, we keep them like vague on purpose.
Well, and the concept too that you can take one from another character type too, whereas a lot of times that's an advancement in PBTA games is like, oh, pick a move from a different playbook. Whereas this one's like, if it fits into what you want for your character, sure, go ahead and take that one.
Absolutely.
The last thing I wanted to mention that like inspired not our character sheet now in this case, and the social club sheet, which is I think it's also powered by the Apocalypse. It's Blades in the Dark. No, that's
it's the Forged in the Dark.
Yes.
Yeah, it's heavily influenced by PBTA, but
yes.
Yeah.
That one has I forgot what they're called, a crew system or a den system as well. You make crews and you build your base. That was definitely a big inspiration for us in coming up with our club sheet and feeling that ownership by being able to upgrade your club with rooms.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really like that, like just that concept generally in games, because again, it's one of those things, you know, that you mentioned as far as like naming things and stuff like that. The players do anyway, even when the game doesn't mechanize it. And so I like the concept of being like, oh, okay, this is our little club and our little hangout. And, you know, like your club members, it's like, those are all the NPCs that everybody adopts in every game anyway.
Yes.
And
now you have a place to collect them.
Right. And like a reason to have them. And now it's part of the game. So you're not just annoying the game master when you do these things, you know, but it's encouraged.
Actively encouraged. Yes.
So how do you feel like the process of creating characters kind of sets people up for what the game is going to be like? Which is to say, like once you've created characters, has that really like kind of told people what playing the game is going to be like? Or is it, you know, there's some games where it's like, it's a totally separate process. So something like D&D where it's like you create the characters and then the game is a whole different thing. So how do you feel like this sets people up for what the game is going to be like?
Well, I feel like we've touched upon this, but I would say all the sheets, both the character sheets and the social club sheet is going to tell you 100% what the game is going to be like, because and we've outlined examples of a season in the book, but it all draws from different sections of your character sheets and your social club. So there might be an episode where you focus on one character's dilemma, and then another character's dilemma, another episode. You also, on your social club sheet, you have the first public challenge that your rival club has issued, but you're going to be issued other challenges throughout your season as well. So the sheet itself is both the sheets themselves are going to tell you what the season is going to be about. Your rival club, you're going to have lots of play with your rival club throughout the season.
Lots of drama, maybe lots of romance.
And the big trouble for your social club. That's going to be an overarching story throughout your season, and hopefully comes to a nice, satisfying conclusion in the final episode.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this one basically like told you what the game is going to be. So it's not like you created a character and then you come and then the GM has made a story and then you put your characters into it. This one, like by creating our dilemmas and, you know, the big trouble and all that kind of stuff, we've said, okay, here's what we're doing in this game. Like it is fully set up the story just based on what we did with the characters. It's like, okay, here's the game. Like we wrote it.
I also hope that it's through the character creation process that it also gets this mindset in the players that this is a collaborative game as well, because we are creating the story actually together with our characters. And it's also the way Flabbergasted is played. It really depends a lot on how much the players give back to the GM to work with. If I want to come up with a really boring solution to something, or just a very like straight narrow path one, we're not extending the game. The whole point of this game is to really tell a funny story together.
Yeah, I mean, you're really encouraged to make problems.
Yes. And really use the scene cues in creative ways to extend the scene, to come up with a fun deviation or a fun roundabout way to getting to our solution.
Yeah, it feels very much like, one of those, like, when a door closes, a window opens, except that it's, I've solved one problem, but created another by doing that, like even that, like, IOU scene cue. It was like, okay, I can use that to solve a problem, but it's going to come back to bite me later. Like, it's going to be
giving
another...
something to GM.
Right. Yeah.
That's always fun. I also love that by creating a social club that is intended to be upgraded, like it, and tying that to a location kind of gives you a central like base meeting grounding point for the group. So like no matter how far you're going to be traveling, you're going to come back to this place that you collaboratively created together that is going to be something that you care about. So like almost everything you do in the game is going to come back to this social club effectively.
I think it's also amazing how immediately that like draws the group together and creates a group dynamic, because there are lots of games that certainly have like relationship questions and things like that.
Yeah.
And while we talk to each other while we're doing character creation, we all kind of separately created characters that, other than Ryan and Chelsea, like, didn't really have a lot of a relationship with each other. But having that social club is immediately like, here's a thing that we all care about and a thing that we want to do together. And it really solves that you meet in a tavern kind of problem that a lot of games have. But without forcing people to like make characters that, are all like, that like Ryan makes a choice and now I have to do something that goes along with that choice that he's made. Like we were able to make the characters we wanted to make. Yeah. But we still can tell a story together.
It is really interesting, like the type of social club you make and how open-ended it is dramatically gives you information about everybody's characters. Like if we made a fight club instead,
right?
Like, what does that say about all of our characters, right?
Right. Yeah. If we had made like a baking club or a tea club, like we would have a totally different story. I do love though that after creating characters, we all immediately were like, it's obviously matchmaking, right? Like that's because it really was what I was going to suggest, and right away we were like, "Yep, this is what we're doing," and we were like, "Oh my god, me too."
It was meant to be.
It was. I love when it works that way.
So this is a question that I like to field to all of the designers on the show. What do you two think is one of the biggest flaws of character creation in this system? And what is one of your favorite parts?
I honestly don't feel like there are any flaws. I feel like
no, we have to come up with one.
I mean, there are games where it's like, oh, okay, like I would love to tweak this thing, and like personally, I would not tweak any of this. But you're the designer, so maybe you have, Sometimes the longer you fiddle around in a system, the more you're like, oh, this doesn't quite do what I want. But
I think I can answer this, Shelley, unless you have a strong.
No,
okay.
Go ahead, because I can't think of it.
The only flaw I can think of, because not to toot our own horn and say it's perfect and beyond perfection, but it's also a rather simple like system, and I don't think there's much room to I don't think we left out anything super important or need to change something. I would, now looking at it as a graphic designer, I wish I added more elements to help you like level up a little bit. Like it could just be a sentence underneath, for example, traits that's like select one at the end of an episode, or for example with dignity and the scandal, the social standing tracker. I think I could have added markers. As for example, if you're at like 5 scandal, I could have made like a little symbol there that says this is where something changes for your character.
Yeah.
Little small things I think could have like improved the legibility of the sheet even further. But otherwise, I don't think there's like anything drastic that I want to change.
Yeah.
Yeah, aside from graphic design elements, I think the character creation process itself is very simple, and like Fleur mentioned, this is a relatively straightforward game, so I'm not surprised that nothing felt broken since we've published. Like we've played many one shots with strangers, and it was always really easy and legible. But it also helps that we designed a pretty easy and beginner friendly game.
Yeah. Yeah. Not having a ton of pieces makes it easier to kind of perfect it. There aren't as many things to like factor in.
Yeah, and we went through many iterations, don't get me wrong, for the character sheet. But I feel like it's pretty legible now.
I would say probably my favorite part is actually just the scene cues. I think they're fun and charming. Part. They are really...
They're great. They're great.
Yeah, they get your mind like racing with ideas. You're like, oh, I want to have a situation where I can use this.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I like about it. It kind of gets you excited to play. Right.
I would agree. Scene cues is my favorite part, but I'd also say the scandal dignity tracker, the meter, is fun to have at the bottom of the sheet, and I kind of see where I'm at in the world, how people are treating me, sort of thing. Yeah, I think those two are my favorite.
Like a
parts.
Fun little mechanic to kind of like see how you're doing, to kind of watch some of your character development too, as like I watch myself become more scandalous. It's like, I can kind of get a sense of the personality.
It changes your role play a little bit as well. Like if you don't want to be too scandalous, think, okay, maybe I should do some dignified acts this session.
Right. Yeah. It's another thing
that's pretty fun.
I think it's another thing. Yeah, right. I think it's another thing too that really it helps you with some of that improv stuff. Like the scene cues, it's another thing to kind of help people get into character and be able to play in a game that is narratively really open. It gives you an idea of what to do when you're not sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, the scene cues even like helped me determine my flaw, right? It was like I was like, a couple of them could fit, but like once I picked these, I'm like, oh yeah, she's a snoop.
Yeah, once you pick that 100%. One about like listening in on conversations and stuff, you're like, oh, I know what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think it helps to know that it seems like everything works holistically in these sheets. You don't feel like anything is going to ruin the other selections you've made.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, because like I picked my memento first, and like I got a bookmark from my parents. Well, why is that significant? And then that just created my background and my dilemma all in one stroke. So it's just interesting how you can go one direction in the character creation process and pull multiple other portions pretty easily and seamlessly.
And the fact that they're all pretty malleable, too, that you can, even when you pick those scene cues, you can kind of decide how they fit with the character. You can pick a flaw that fits with the scene cues. And because stuff is pretty open, like I said, it's not like PBTA where it's so specific to a particular situation. They're a lot easier to fit in with the vision you have for a character.
Absolutely.
It's time for our favorite part, which is our fanfic portion, where instead of actually playing the game, we like to talk about what a game like this might look like, how it might play out. So I'm curious about this rivalry with the matchmaking club that makes matches. And I want to know if Winifred finds love.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think Winifred finds love by the end. Maybe in one of our balls, not a matchmaking event. I think it should be more dramatic. It should be another elderly man or woman in one of our
maybe you meet somebody
maybe a masquerade ball.
Yeah. Oh,
yes, a masquerade
let's be
ball would
dramatic. It's a masquerade ball,
and then it's a whole mystery to figure out who this person was because you don't know.
What
yes.
What if? Oh,
yes, that
what
could be another
if
episode.
The person that like you really hit it off with was at the masquerade ball of all places. Was the head of the matchmakers.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I was going to suggest.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
so is the best.
Enemies to lovers.
Rival club presidents fall in love. Yes.
Yeah. And that just like we have an official wager in the books and like how both of the stories kind of like this masquerade might be like the big climactic sort of event that leads to the royal setup effectively.
Maybe we failed to set up a royal match, but we end up saving the club because you found love with the other president.
Yeah.
Right. And so now the club is like kind of meshed together.
And,
like, through marriage. We make a little alliance.
The love match book.
This is beautiful. I always love enemies to lovers. This is great.
It's such a great concept.
It's cliche, but I love it. The masquerade and everything. I like that ending. That's the royal wedding didn't happen, but ends with Winifred's wedding.
Yes, we have Winifred's wedding instead.
And the ferret's the little ring bearer, and it's just amazing.
I need to know too what happens with Tilly's engagement.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe if we want to go like the really sappy route, she does realize that when she like allows herself and her fiance to like let their hair down, so to speak, and stop being so stiff and rigid, they find like a wild side to each other. Yeah,
but it turns out they both have a lot in common, and
I like that trope of a really like person with like a stick up their bum, but then you realize if you dig deep, they're like, actually, I used to be a trapeze artist, and I used to.
I love that.
And so she had to have a happy ending with her fiance. It'd probably be something like that, where she like finds that inspiration was there all along. She had to look. She didn't need to look outside. She just looked deeper in.
Yeah.
What happened to Margot's parents?
Yes.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I assumed that they had gone on like an expedition, almost like I don't know, because for whatever reason, treasure hunters like popped in my head when I'm thinking 1920s adventurous expedition force
to look for an old rare book, right?
Yeah, to look for something like that, right? And like for whatever reason, they were kind of entrenched in another country for a while, and maybe they got in some trouble and were on the run and had to go kind of under the radar for quite a long while and haven't been able to return home because of that. I think that that Margot probably did find the book eventually.
Yeah.
I'm curious where she found it though.
Maybe the book was left with like whoever her parents, maybe like handlers were, who send them on missions, and they left the book with them for safekeeping. But then
who her parents never told her about. So it's always been a mystery to her, right?
What if it's Winifred's new husband?
That's what I'm thinking, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
Or my mystery husband.
Yeah.
Oh, who is the mystery husband?
Who also like disappeared with your parents.
Oh, maybe that's why you
your
never
parents,
talk about it.
know my husband, but he's actually some kind of secret agent, so I'm not allowed to talk about him.
Oh, that's why. See, we all assumed you were just lying.
Right.
Yeah, he's an imaginary husband.
Right.
The
Yeah,
plot
but he's
twist,
actually like a
at least
secret
he's not
agent.
like held in a basement somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
That's actually like I love how sitcom that is.
Uh-huh.
There's the off-screen husband, and we're like, oh, she's definitely lying. And he's like, actually, no. And he comes out, he has this chiseled jaw. He's the most handsome man.
Right. Yeah.
And he's like, actually, I've just been off around the world trying to save it.
Yep.
Yeah. Meanwhile, like Winifred being this big gossip is like telling everybody that I murdered him so that I could get money for my shoe empire.
Well, that's what I heard. I mean,
Yeah, but it turns out he was in hiding because of what happened to Margot's parents.
so much drama.
Mhm.
So could it be Winifred's husband? He is like an antiques collector. He loves especially like rare books. And he he commissioned her, Margot's parents to go fetch this book. Like, do we want to make him a villain? Or is he like a character who's just like, oh, I didn't know it was going to be so dangerous. And they left me this book behind with instructions of where they're going. But I didn't know who they were related to. And
Yeah.
and then he hands it to Margot, and then she can like track down her parents with it.
Yeah, I do like that. I also like that, like, throughout the whole time, there's clues in the background of all of the episodes that Margot's just completely oblivious to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but then people like imagining this is a sitcom, people watching the show are like on Reddit being like, did you see this thing in the background where like I love it. I love
Absolutely.
I'd watch this sitcom right now.
I would. I totally would. I feel like we need to tie Tilly in a little bit more because I feel like aside from planning these events,
I'll just
so
perform.
You plan all the events and you do the decor and stuff. Did you know that the person Winifred was like met at the ball was the other like president guy?
Oh,
like did you set that up?
Oh, you know what? Probably would have. Because she's like, what greater story is their love story than two people who hate each other on opposite sides? It's so Romeo and Juliet, you know?
Right. You're like, this is the perfect, like, creative story. Like, this is the perfect narrative that you're trying to set up. Yeah.
And hey, maybe that's the great composition she writes, which is like their wedding ballad.
Yes. Yes.
I also love that, like, Winifred might have been like, don't use this matchmaking service on me. That's silly. Like, I'll do it myself type of thing, right? I'll find the perfect person myself.
I mean, she's the
but
president.
like dropping all these hints here and there about what she wants from a partner and everything. And then here we have Tilly like, oh, this is perfect. Let me just do this without saying anything.
Realizing the president of the other club was perfect.
And that's why you decided to make this one a masquerade.
And it was Biff who told her this. Biff who scouted the information.
Yes. Yeah. Well, because he's the only one you could trust to like.
Yes.
You know, you're like, hey, I have this hunch, but I need you because I can trust you to do this.
Yep.
So. Yeah.
Hiding behind tiny newspapers on park benches.
Yeah, wearing the glasses with a mustache. Yeah. Oh my God.
Nobody will be the wiser.
I love this. All of this. My God,
I just love how it all ties in neat with a bow.
Also, wedding. So it always ends with a big event. So cute.
Yes. Yeah.
I love it.
Ferret in a perfect bow tie. It's really.
Yep.
And then twist ending. The parents like walk in on the wedding midway and they're like, wait, you have to stop. We need your help. It's blank. Cut to next season.
Yes. Yes.
And then the show loses funding and then we never find out.
Just like this podcast.
Oh, it's so good.
So we just have one more thing to cover, which we've talked a lot about really already, which is how advancement works in this game.
Take it up a level. Take it up a level.
So we've talked about how leveling up, you know, like what you get for that, I guess. What happens when you filled all your boxes?
I don't
A lot of
know.
boxes, a lot of boxes to fill. I don't
Yeah,
know.
nobody's scheduled that far out. I don't know.
I
know,
don't
right?
think so. I don't think anyone actually ever has gotten to like. I mean, probably the game breaks if you have everything ticked to the max.
You have enough if you have everything ticked off.
You start
You have
over.
enough.
You start a new
Plus, you
character.
can pull in scene cues from other playbooks too, right? So,
Mhm.
like,
So eventually
mean,
you'll have all of
but-
those too.
You have enough scene cues.
everybody's a jack of all trades,
Right.
8 in everything.
Mhm.
I mean, it's really obviously a campaign can go for as long as you want, but
Mhm.
Yeah.
in the layouts that we've created and the campaigns we've created in the book, we usually go for like, I mean, maybe 10 episodes would be good because you can kind of tie everything up towards the end, go
Mhm.
through your dilemmas. I think that's a good amount.
Yeah, I like that there's a
So-
clear sort of goal of like, this is a solid
Mhm.
ending for your story. Whereas, you know, like
it can,
those D&D campaigns that people have been playing for 25 years or whatever, you know, I like that
Yeah.
this is like, here's the end. We did it. Season
Mhm.
finale.
Yeah, because it's like the point isn't necessarily to level up your character to the max level and
Yeah.
have like every epic spell that there is.
Yeah.
It's more about, have we told the story we want to tell by the end? Has everyone resolved their dilemma?
Mhm.
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 Have we made some like funny in jokes along the way through silly stories?
Yeah.
solve
What
the big
happens if
I-
you
trouble.
solve your dilemma? Do you just make a new one or like,
You help the others with theirs dilemma.
Okay. I
Um,
did notice when you upgrade your social club,
Mhm.
there is mechanical benefits to those. Could we talk about those a little bit?
yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. So, for example, when you first start playing, your traits, you can only max up to 4, right?
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
only until you unlock certain rooms in the social club that you can then raise that cap to 8.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's also some rooms that give you scene cues to unlock.
Mhm.
Hmm.
For example, we have, I think so most of the scene cues are unique to each character, except for like a couple, which are they're named differently, but they are the same throughout. Which is there's a flirting one, there's like a shameless flirt,
Mhm.
and there's also a surprising skill.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
And
there's
those are universal between all of the characters. And
Mhm.
some of those are also unlocked. Well, or you can unlock additional scene cues by upgrading your social club.
Mhm.
I think those are the big mechanics that we have.
Yeah, the rest are a lot of our narrative upgrades. But apart from improving your protagonist throughout the season, you're obviously improving your social club together.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I also see like the trophy room and then earning like, you know, trophies and your club upgrades. So does that go in the trophy room? I'm curious what the trophy room is. What are your trophies?
Oh, trophies are, let's say you did a public challenge where you won a
Mhm.
cross-country race or something and you win a trophy. You can proudly display it in your trophy room.
Mhm.
It's really just, it's just for the fun. It's
Narrative.
just,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels like the matchstick boxes that we were looking for, those
Mhm.
little pads. I think for our what was it, the public challenge, the matchbook scavenger hunt, like those matchbooks would be perfect for a trophy room.
A trophy,
it feels
yeah.
Or
like.
you
if
earn
we-
a
if
trophy
we
that is
won it.
the crystal match.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in fact, the trophy room is like the very first room, and you can only unlock it if you have finished your first public challenge, which is by that point, I mean, hopefully you
That's-
won it and you could display your trophy there. And it's
Mhm.
more narrative so that you can show off to other clubs
Mhm.
that, hey, look at all of our wins.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's
Yeah.
a space in your sheet for trophies as well to list them down.
Yes. Oh,
I do like there's like there's the another room called the printing press, which is that until you get that room, you yourself cannot issue a public challenge.
Oh.
So if we have an idea for a challenge, we have to unlock that room first, and then we can
Mhm.
dictate like the players themselves can decide what one of these like sessions is
Yeah.
going to look like.
Interesting. That's really interesting because that gives like a little narrative like gravitas to the challenges of like, we've got the printing press, so we're actually throwing a public challenge out into the public eye where everybody says, "Oh, wow, this is happening."
Oh,
That's
like
very
that.
cool.
That's cool.
Awesome.
And you can, we say like you can typically expect to go up a renown level, or like 1 to 2 every episode.
Yeah.
Especially if you all keep it in mind to work together to like, oh, let's always try and promote our club and show it in the best light.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very cool.
And then there is the secret societies.
Oh, yeah, we haven't touched upon that as well.
Discuss.
Yeah.
More? Yes.
So the big benefit, so one of the reasons that you would want to try and go up on the dignified or scandalous social standing tracker is because when you reach certain levels, you get invited to secret societies.
Ooh.
Yes.
Which are like, it's like a secondary club that you may form part of. I definitely feel like secret societies is like a season 2 or very late game addition, because you kind of get extra like missions and challenges set by these secret societies, but they'll also be able there to help you out in your own overarching story. And you also get a unique scene queue when you reach a secret society.
So is there potential then if like one character's like dignity is really high and another scandal is really high that like they're in like different societies? And
that can create some very juicy drama.
I was gonna say, and if they have competing goals.
I mean, probably everyone's going to have different societies, so depending on the archetype. So the staff there's a secret society for if you're the staff and you have max dignity, or if you're the staff and you have max scandal, and the same for the other archetypes. So there are a total of 8 secret societies that you can join. And you only get that when you're max dignity and scandal, so 10. So it's going to be a late in the season kind of thing. But I think it's a nice thing to try and accomplish before the end of a campaign. And then maybe you have a couple of missions with the secret society. Like, for example, if you're a dignified staff, you'll be invited to the Helping Hand. And there's an initiation mission that we outlined in the book. Let's see, what else are they called? The Aristocrats. There's Creme de la Creme if you've got max dignity, or the Mint Juleps if you got max scandal.
These are so
more
cool.
ideas for. There are a lot of ideas for the director to pull out episodes.
I like it.
Those are cool.
That's very good.
I like how we mentioned this in the conclusion. We're not.
I know, right? That's fine.
Oops.
No, this is really cool. And I also wanted to mention, since we haven't had a chance to mention this elsewhere, the PDF version of this book is so accessible. I love it so much. Links everywhere. And like the chapter tabs at the bottom of every page makes me so happy. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
It's super easy to use and navigate, and
we made it a good point that we're not just going to make a PDF of the book, completely redid it all to fit on screens.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So thank you for that. Is there anything else you want to talk about for the game before we head on out?
We could mention that, like in the book as well, there's a section that I really had a lot of fun writing, which is the story hook section, which is originally our first plan was to write 100 different story hooks, like little paragraphs that give you like a really like wild and crazy story that you can use to either like pad out an episode or to build a whole episode around. We ended up going from 100 to 70 because we were like, okay, we saw a bit.
70 is a lot. So that
that
is a lot of ideas. So,
but even like I have had people saying like, I don't even want to play. I just enjoyed reading the 70 story hooks. So they're just like really fun, wild episode ideas.
Yeah, I think they can also give you a good sense of like what a character might do too, if you like before character creation, to kind of read through some of those and be like, okay, this is what the game is about too.
Yeah.
Definitely very helpful for the game master. Also good to use in other campaigns as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are
I do
fun.
like that.
They've been informed both ways. Like I got ideas from other campaigns I've run or other role-playing systems and vice versa.
I like that there's a couple seasonal ones.
Yep.
The haunted house, there's a Christmas one.
I'll be honest, for the
Valentine's
seasonal
Day
ones
one.
were the ones when we were running out of ideas.
Yeah. Still love it.
The story hooks were the death of us, right?
Mhm.
after
they were really
40,
fun.
but they were really
Yeah.
fun. But after 40 story hooks, I was like, oh my
I know.
We're like, seasons. Okay, let's make one with every season. Let's.
But they're a lot of fun. And yeah, the book definitely has like with Flabbergasted, we have a lot of resources for the director. It's I think how we wrote it and structured it is going to really help directors and players come up with a story and learn how to improvise, because improvising and comedy isn't easy. But I think we did a good job with Flabbergasted in providing rules and making it easy for people to kind of get into it.
Yeah, I mean, that last
Absolutely.
chapter has just like so many just ideas for people playing characters and things like that. You have some slang, you have some phrases, you have fanciful words. There's guides on clothing and accessories.
The clothing guide
and,
was one of the most fun I've had to draw in this book.
yeah.
Just
Yeah, you've got tables for names and characteristics and locations and all that kind of stuff. So it's
So
really
good.
helpful to have all of that in there too. There's just so much to work with.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Very cool.
This is such a good game.
I love this.
It's such
so
a good
much.
game.
Yeah, it was a lot
Well,
of fun making characters with you guys.
This was so much fun.
I love it.
Fleur and Chelsea, thank you both so much for joining us. I had an absolute blast going through this with both of you.
and thank you so much for having us. Like this was a really interesting way of like talking about our game. I really like the setup of like building a character. Now I'm really inspired to play again.
I know. Yeah.
Right.
I feel like somebody at least needs to write up this scenario at some point. As
Yeah,
an option.
it has to happen.
Yeah, matchmaking club.
Yeah,
I mean, we can do it. We can do it. For Valentine.
I was
far
about
away.
to say that. Cute.
Release a Valentine's Day sample.
I know. Can you both remind everybody where they can find you online and what sorts of things you were working on?
Yeah, so you can find us on wanderers-tome.com, and you can find us on Wanderers Tome on different social media. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, we're everywhere. We've published Flabbergasted, our first tabletop role-playing game. We also have a couple of murder mystery PDFs for sale on our website, and we've just kickstarted a project earlier this year called Wanderer's Companion. That's a create a portrait sticker book. Where it's essentially like a doll maker in a book where you layer different stickers and create your character. So if you're artistically challenged, this is a good product for you. Instead of I usually get my sister to draw my character for me, but I can just stick and create a portrait, and it's
perfect
for
for the
fantasy
spot
characters.
on this sheet.
So perfect for D&D and things like that. And we're well, we can't say too much, but we're working on a couple of other games. Hopefully next year we'll have a couple of releases, which we're very excited about.
Very cool.
Yeah. Well, when you do, you can send us an email and we can do
absolutely
this
will.
again.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you both for sitting down with us. Thank you to everybody for listening. And we'll be back next week.
Call to action.
Yeah, like that. So in this one for our fanfic, we got to talk about how we think these matches would go.
I know.
We got to talk about some of our NPCs, which was glorious.
It was fantastic.
I love our little social club.
It's so good.
They're so good. They're so good.
Yeah, just doing good in this like, city in the middle of who knows where.
Right. Yeah.
I like that it's ambiguous, though. I'm picturing somewhere in Europe.
Right. Yeah. Kind of vaguely. Yeah. European. 1920s.
Yeah.
Love it. I just so love our little like. Oh, I love them so much. And planning balls and. Yeah, it's our library and
it's such a nice, cozy feel of a game too. I really like that you could just lean into that comedy from the get-go.
Yeah.
And like I can easily see having a ton of fun with this game. Like it's just the characters that we made have so many little strings to pull on. And
definitely.
Like, even though it's like, okay, here's a trouble and a background and all that sort of stuff for your character, it's like, okay, now you're mixing everything together though, and what's all connected behind the scenes,
Yeah, it was a really simple character creation, but like kind of those like ongoing sliding scales too of it's been a while since we recorded it and I didn't edit it, so I don't remember exactly like this. Is it like Scandal? There's just like a lot to kind of pull on and like the fun little background things and I don't know. It was good. It was good. And just game. Like all of the stuff your social club can get into and your rival club.
Yeah, this was a very good game to cover. I'm glad we were able to get them on. I'm glad we were able to do this justice, and goodness gracious, I really want to play this game.
I know.
Doing this series while we're playing a very diametrically opposed thematically game of Die is just
well, and this one in follow-up to our Die series is
just whiplash for those going
about face. Definitely
the Mach 7 whiplash right there.
I love it.
It's so good.
Keep everybody on their toes.
Exactly.
Well, before we let everybody go for the day, here are our calls to action.
Coming soon to the One Shot Secret Archive is something I am personally extremely excited about. Well, that's right. It is the return of Starwall, Odyssey of the Lucky Finn, Season 2. It is starting up very soon. I'm not sure exactly when it's going to drop, but James has a load of episodes just sitting in a bucket, ready to start deploying. So hopefully within the next week or two, even possibly by the time this episode releases, it could be out there. So if you are a patron of the One Shot Network, you can head on over to their Patreon and check it out when it releases. If you do want to check out a preview, there is a Starwall feed in the public for the first 5 episodes of Season 1. And you can check it out and see some cool sound design and music placement choices I made along the way.
It's a lot of fun. The world building is so cool. I'm excited to see where it goes from here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Not even ready for it.
I'm sure. If you enjoy what we're doing on our show here, one way you can directly support us is to check out our Patreon. We have multiple tiers, and all of them are jam-packed with rewards. Everyone gets access to our chit-chat episodes and bonus outtakes. Our $5 tier gets access to even more bonus episodes and early release episodes. And you get dice when you sign up, so that's pretty cool. And the $10 tier includes video chats with us and other patrons at that level and exclusive stickers every month.
Yeah, we get thank you cards, hand-signed and written by, and created and crafted by Amelia herself.
Yeah.
Wonderful little perks for joining our Patreon, so I really hope you check that out. In addition to all of that, we will thank you all personally every single episode because we love you and we love your contributions to us in this community. So we're going to be doing that right now, starting with, as usual, Lieutenant and DJG, aka Tigranosaurus. Thanks so much for helping us make the show.
Eric Bonce and Daryl Holiday II, thank you for your continued support.
Shadim Cabal and the Shyest Barbarian, we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Benjamin Sweeney and Lorcan McGinnis, we're happy to have you here with us. Thank you.
Rob Fletcher and Kevin Brown, you shouldn't have, but we are very glad you did.
Tentacle Duck and Cole McCallum, thank you for your support.
Thank you to John Adamus and the hysterical Harlequin Herons and his hypothetical highness of hip-hop Harry the Hare. We couldn't do this without you.
Carlos Salazar and Eric S., thank you for your continued support.
Ross Kingston and Ian Potmeyer, thank you for your continued support as well.
Sorigoth and Liam G., we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Brian Colm and the Garden GM, thanks for making this all possible.
Dark Mirror and Tom, thanks.
Blue Kryptonite and Danny, many thanks to you.
Nicole Trainer and Liam Murray, thank you so much.
Thank you to Satwan Kangura and Kending. And thanks to all of our future supporters as well. Your assistance helps pay for the production of the show and really brightens our days every time we see a new patron join us. You'll also be joining a growing and supportive community on our Discord at discord.charactercreationcast.com and get exclusive patron-only channels.
Another way to really help us out is by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, and Facebook. We read all of the 5-star reviews right here in our calls to action, and thank you personally. And we actually have a brand new review to read right now, and I'm so excited.
I know.
How do you suppose you say this? Three Crobbles? This one comes from, we're guessing, 3 Crobbles from the United States of America on iTunes, and it is titled Favorite TTRPG Podcast. Actual plays can be hard to get through if you can't vibe with the actors. Luckily, I don't have this problem with Character Creation Cast, and not just because it's the rare role-playing podcast that's not an actual play. Amelia and Ryan have wonderful chemistry. If nerd snark has you down, fear not, because these guys use it as a spice, not the main ingredient. They love role-playing games, and in every episode you can hear them get invested in their characters and the process. Sincerity is how we play games around here. I signed up for the Patreon, and you should too. Get their stickers, get more content, and support a podcast that has the best catalogs of role-playing mechanics out there. That is so nice. Oh my gosh.
Seriously, was so thrilled to see this review. And also very curious which of our patrons this 3 Crobbles belongs to. But we'll leave that mystery for now. Thank you so much for that review.
I know that makes me so happy. Reviews make my heart so happy, everyone.
So much.
So good.
Brighten our days. Leave more reviews.
Seriously.
That's all we have for today's episode. We are really glad you could join us for this amazing series. This month's Evolution Cast episode happened at the start of the month, so stay tuned next week where a new series will hopefully begin. I mean, scheduling's hard.
It is.
So
it is.
We'll figure it out. Until then, take care, everybody. Stay safe out there. Drink some water, spread some joy, and keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time. Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can also be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at CreationCast, or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Bolter, and I can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you'd like to support our show, find us on Patreon. Get access to bonus episodes, exclusive merch, and much more at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We'll see you next time.